Dance, girl, dance. And while you're dancing, why not dance into romance? The boys all looking at you, staring in a trance. Go on and dance, girl, dance.
Welcome to our YouTube channel titled Vinyl City Broadcasting, your transit express to rock and roll trivia. I'm Marie, the host of VCB. Today, Rico is sending me across town to a midtown liquor store, so I'll see you in a little while. Rico, I mixed the drink to your specifications and likings, just like they did it back in the day when you worked on Madison Avenue. I took a picture of it in the kitchen and I sent it to you via Instagram. Now why don't you show the drink to our audience and let's see if they know what it is. Now who knows what the drink is and what group was named after it? Who said martini? No, I haven't heard of the Martinis. Manhattan? What kind of Manhattan? Who said a Scotch Manhattan? You are correct. Better known as a Rob Roy. So our guest today, as you probably have guessed, is Norman Fox of the Rob Roys. That's right. They took their name from the Rob Roy cocktail. Now, Rico enjoyed an occasional Rob Roy when he worked in Manhattan. But let me give you a brief synopsis of Norman Fox and the Rob Roys. The Rob Roys wrote their own material and are well known for such hits as Dream Girl, Tell Me Why, Pizza Pie, Rainy Day, Dance Girl, Lover Doll, Do Re Mi, and others. The group formed in New York in 1956 and were one of the few interracial groups recording at that time. They practiced at DeWitt Clinton High School in the Bronx, in the school's bathroom, and at Norman's house on Henry Hudson Parkway, sharpening their sounds on songs like the Heartbeats' Rockin' and Rollin' and their own Tell Me Why. As they practiced their tunes and perfected their sound, Norman Fox emerged as the lead singer of the group's original material. We have Norman Fox on the show today, but before we get into that interview, we'd like to run a video of Norman performing at a PBS doo-wop special taped at the Ritz Theater in New Jersey. Run that video, Rico!
Why high the stars in the sky, they're the same kind of stars that I see in your eyes. I love you, yes I do. Oh, won't you tell me why? Why, tell me why? Why my heart skips a beat every time that you're here, every time that we meet. I love you, yes I do. Oh, won't you tell me why?
black suit, red tie, and a pair of shades. It was all good. Norman did quite a performance, and he sounded as good as he did when he first recorded this song. We're now going to run the interview that Norman and I did a few months back for Vinyl City Broadcasting. Run that interview, Rico. I'd like to start off by asking you, Norman, how did you start singing with the Rob Roys?
Hi, this is Norman Fox, and this is the interview for the VCB group. And the first question is, how did you start singing with your group? Well, I've been asked this countless times, and it's like many of the old groups in that era started. We were in high school. Alan Freed was on the radio, and I was an avid listener to Alan Freed, and so were members of my friends. I went to DeWitt Clinton High School in the Bronx, and we were so infatuated with the music that we tried to emulate the sounds of the groups that were on Alan Freed's show that he played. Vocal groups, group harmony, things like that. And so eventually what we did was we formed a group, or we tried to form a group. We had auditions, and we formed a group at school. We brought in members, we rejected members, until we got the harmony sounds that we wanted. And we used to sing in the bathroom because there was an echo there, and it made our voices sound better, and the harmonies sound better. And we finally got together and got a group. The original name of the group was called the Velvetones, and we started singing at school. We started singing at other places too. We started singing at the Y. We started singing at different venues where people asked us to sing. We never made any money, but we got popular, and it was a great way to communicate, and it was fabulous. Then eventually, one of the guys in the group had a connection with a record store on 3rd Avenue and 145th Street, and that was also in the Bronx. And we went down there, and we met him, and the owner of the record store, and he liked our sound, and he brought up a record company individual or a group of people. They heard us, they liked us, and they signed us. And that's basically how the group got started. I mean, I could ramble on about this for a long time, but those are the basics of how the group got started.
We certainly enjoyed seeing how you got started and how your sound spilled out onto the street corners and subways in the neighborhood, and you ended up at a little record store on 3rd Avenue and 145th Street where you guys caught a break and did an audition right on the spot for a record company who signed you to a contract. The rest is rock and roll history. Now let me ask you another question, Norman. What are your favorite Rob Roy songs, and why?
Our first real hit was Tell Me Why, and I did like it very much. And it was a great song. It got a lot of airplay. People like it. I still get tremendous commentary about it today, and all kinds of fan mail of people all over the world who really love the song. We made that Tell Me Why song for Backbeat Records, which was our first record company that we worked for. And then we went on. With that session, we did 4 songs. And it was Tell Me Why, it was Dance Girl Dance, was the second side. And then there was Audrey. And then there was one more that I'm not sure, I don't remember which one it was, but there were 4 songs. Tell Me Why is certainly a terrific song, but then I went on to write other songs, and my favorite of all the songs that I wrote was a song called Dream Girl. I recorded it for Capitol Records, and it was just a beautiful song. It came together so easily. It was probably the easiest song that I ever wrote. I may have wrote it in a half hour. I may have written it, I'm sure I wrote it on the subway, where I wrote a lot of my songs, between the clacking of the tracks and the swaying of the car gave me the rhythm and gave me the mood that put me in, so that I was able to write. And that's where I wrote a lot of my songs. And certainly Dream Girl was a romantic, wonderful song. And to this day, I get fan mail about this song, and people tell me that they walk down the aisle to it on their weddings or their second weddings, and I was just so happy to write it. It was just a wonderful song, and that's my favorite.
Dream Girl. That's one of my favorites too, Norman, along with Tell Me Why. You would think that performers, writers like yourself would like a quiet environment to compose music. But you're on the A train heading in and out of the Bronx, with the sound of the clackety-clack, clackety-clack of the wheels hitting the track, and the swaying of the car from side to side, giving you the rhythm and mood you needed for writing your fabulous songs. You're just an amazing, talented guy, Mr. Fox. Rico told me he got his best design ideas when he was riding the Long Island Railroad from Hicksville to Manhattan back in the 60s and 70s. Let me ask you another question, Norman. What were some of your favorite performers of the 50s and 60s, and have you stayed in touch with any of them?
One of my very favorite performers was Chuck Berry. Unfortunately, we lost Chuck recently. I thought he was absolutely fantastic, and I remember him at the early rock and roll shows that I used to go to at Alan Freed's, at the Brooklyn Paramount Theater, Alan Freed's rock and roll shows. And he just blew me away. He was off the charts. Some of the other groups that I liked very much and used to emulate were the Cleftones and the Cadillacs and the Eldorados, the Flamingos, and Kenny Vance and the Planetones, Dion and the Belmonts, and the Heartbeats, which I thought was the real root. These groups were the real root of rock and roll history. Now, I do shows with all of these guys over the years and have remained relatively friendly with them, but basically only at the shows. I moved out to California about 9 years ago and became very friendly with Wally Roker, who was the bass for the Heartbeats. And we started a doo-wop society out here, and Wally was very instrumental in it. And unfortunately, Wally passed away about a year and a half ago, but I miss him terribly. He was a wonderful guy. I like Terry Johnson of the Flamingos very much, and it's always a pleasure to see him when I do. It's always wonderful to watch Kenny Vance perform when I do the shows with him, and even as an audience participant when I go and see him, and he's a terrific guy and a true gentleman. I've also done a lot of work with the Dubs, I think they have a terrific sound, and their bass sometimes basses with me. And he also went to DeWitt Clinton. Yeah, I see these guys. I don't see them socially, but it's fun when I see them at the shows. It's also very interesting for me to note to you that Alan Freed was a neighbor of mine in the Bronx. I wasn't aware of it until I saw him one day, and he was coming out of my building, and then I became friendly with his daughter, and we spent a lot of time in his apartment. I mean, I was a kid, and I really worshiped the guy. He was really a pioneer, and I always say it at my shows that if it wasn't for Alan Freed, I really don't know whether the music as we know it and how it has evolved today would have been the same. I'm sure that there would have been music. I'm sure that things would have evolved. But Alan Freed was a real pioneer. He died broke. He didn't have a great story. He was investigated by the federal government because he was too powerful, and they were afraid of rock and roll in those years. But he was a true pioneer, and he was just terrific guy.
You picked a handful of the greatest to emulate, Norman. And yes, where would rock and roll be without Alan Freed? Having him as your neighbor had to be pretty cool, being a teenager and watching rock and roll really take root and unfold before your very eyes. Let me ask you one final question, Norman. Are you still performing, and are there any new projects that you're working on?
Interested in hearing about. Well, yes, the answer is I am still performing, and I really do love it. I have, over the last few years, done many shows, and I've done them in different parts of the world. And it is the music, this music has given me an opportunity to do shows in places that I never thought that I would perform. Like we did some shows in Europe, and I did some shows in Spain, and I really enjoyed it very much, where the audiences are not of the age of the audiences here in the States. These are much younger people. I did a show in Spain where I don't think that there was anybody in the theater that was over 40 years old. And they love the music in Europe. They love doo-wop rock and roll music. And it was just a thrill working for them. I have a project that's coming up that I'm doing in Las Vegas next year. I did it about a year and a half, 2 years ago. It's called Viva Las Vegas. And it's doo-wop, which is a part of rockabilly music, and it's a monstrous event that comprises maybe 5 or 6 of the big hotels there, many thousands of people, a large car show that's part of it, many different bands of different origins and types of music. And then there's a doo-wop night that they have, and it's just, they're a wonderful audience, and they really love doo-wop, and I love working for them. So I'm doing that in Vegas next year. We're heading, my wife and I are heading to Asia, where we're planning to do some shows in Hong Kong and in other cities that we're planning to visit there. Hasn't come to fruition yet, but we're working on the projects. So those are the things that I'm doing. They're excited. I don't work constantly. I don't want to. I'm enjoying my retirement. I'm enjoying my grandchildren. I'm enjoying just kicking back. But I do love to still sing and do and produce these shows. It's great.
Sounds as though you're keeping yourself quite busy. Retirement, grandkids, and this music, of course, has given you the opportunity to perform all over the world. You told Rico that you recently did a show in Spain. Next year, your Las Vegas project sounds very exciting, and Asia to follow. Doesn't seem like you're slowing down. In closing, we, the VCB family, would like to thank you personally, Norman, for allowing us to do this interview with you. It was a real pleasure. We hope to see you at a doo-wop concert in the near future, Norman.
I
bring you moonbeams on a cloudy night. I bring you sunlight in the rain. I bring you peaches from a willow tree. All you do is just complain. When I need some love and all you do is say, you turn around on me and run the...
If you've missed any of our shows, you can go to our website and click on the link or button that says VCB. We have 13 shows, and we're sure you'll enjoy all of them. All contact information for Norman Fox and the Rob Roys and Vinyl City Broadcasting will be posted on our last slide. Show's over now, Rico. You can come down and get a sip of your Rob Roy as soon as I shut everything down.
I think I'm going to write a doo-wop song on this trainer tonight.